Hi, this is Lucy and welcome to another episode of Fallout 76 Building 101. Today I'm going to be concentrating on stairs and upper floors. I am, as usual, on Scarlet, who is now level 40 and looking quite tanned in this dismal day. I'm hoping I have enough light to finish, but we'll see. You may remember from the first episode we built this interesting little cabin. And today I'm going to show you how to put an upstairs in, but not just a straight up and down upstairs. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the roof. I'm going to press X and store these items rather than scrap them. If you scrap an item in 76, it gives you half of the resources back. So if you have the budget, it's always preferable to store items. Quite often what I do is, when I move camps, is I store everything and scrap as I need to as I go. And if I have any bits left over at the end, I scrap them then. 76 is a bit odd in that you cannot, if you've played Fallout 4, you cannot place an upper floor unless you have a ladder. So you can't place, these are the ladders. These ladders come as standard. I have some extra styles of ladder that were bought from the Atom store. And you also get these frames. I'm going to use one of these frames today for this roof and upper floor. I don't actually like these wire mesh floors, but there isn't much option, and for a small cabin like this, if you put a ladder up, you can only use really the whole floor pieces, not the halves, because regular ladders will only snap into the middle of a square tile. I like to have all my tiles facing the same way because I'm a bit OCD. Early on in the game you actually used to be able to cover these wire things with wooden floor pieces, but they changed the collision properties on objects about a year ago and haven't been able to do it since. The other thing I'm going to do, and it will become obvious why later on, is I'm going to extend the floor out beyond the edge of the building so that we can have a porch. Now, rather than just do a straightforward two-storey building, I'm going to make this a little bit more interesting by using these half walls. And I'm going to put a dormer into the roof line. We're going to have our sloped roofs again, so we're going to need these triangular pieces. And then I will show you how to build a dormer. We're going to have one in the middle. What we're going to do is put another half wall above this half wall. Now I'm going to use these windows that came with this blue set that came from the Atom store. If you don't have this, you can use the half windows that came with the barn set, or with the warehouse set. They aren't as attractive, but they do the job. As far as I'm aware, the only half walls with proper windows in are this set. Now if we go back to our wood section, you will see that there is a different type of wood triangle, and these are designed to go in here adjacent to roofs. They should snap straight on. And then you have the question of what roof to put on here. You can put this single roof piece. You'll notice that this comes in different styles. You have one that's closed at both ends, one that's closed at one end, open at another, and open at both ends. We're going to use the one that's closed at one end and open at the other. We'll put one there and one there. You can of course just use a flat roof over your dormer, but it does add a little bit of extra height. Like that. It's actually getting a little bit dark now, so I will take a short break and I will return in the morning. So it's a nice bright day in the Commonwealth, and we're now going to do a covered porch. Before I do that, I will show you what this dormer looks like with a flat roof, so if you fancy something different. You can try it yourself. I'm only going to do it on one side just to show you the difference. Obviously at the back you still have the peaked roof. If you have a look at my watermill build, I used dormers on that. They were 2 squares wide, so I used 2 windows, and then I used the triangular wall pieces, one on either side, and I created a roof going at opposing angles. I can't do this on this build because it's too small. So we have our floors that extend out from the upper floor, and what we're going to do to create this covered porch is we are going to use these triangular walls there, and now our sloped roofs will snap onto those. If you ever have an error that you can't remove something, it's normally because in 76 you have to reverse engineer, especially with upper floors. Oh, that didn't work. You can't take something off that would leave something floating. Everything has to be connected to each other to the ladder. I think because of this ladder, let's try this one actually. No, I can still do it. Because this is such a small area, everything is still connected even if I remove one floor piece. But on a larger build where you'd have pieces extending out, you wouldn't be able to remove a dependent piece. So, for example, I can't remove this piece. Cannot remove item, part of the structure would not be accessible. So always try and remember your build order. Build order is very important in 76. There are some things you can do if you do it one way, but you can't do it if you do it another. I'm going to put the roof back on. Because I actually prefer the pitched roof. There are advantages and disadvantages to these stair frames. One of the advantages is that the stairs are actually adjacent, right next to the wall. If you put a regular stair up, it is in fact in the middle of the floor piece, and then in the middle of the top piece. So there are advantages. The disadvantages obviously are the wire mesh and the pillars, although I don't mind the pillars, and you can build walls adjacent to them. It's mainly for me, it's the aesthetic of this wire mesh. I wish Bethesda would actually give us some wooden floors. But because there are so many different floor styles available via the Atom store, they would have to do a lot of skins, I guess, to cover all of them. But they have done it with other things. So yeah, so a blessing and a curse, really, like most things in this game. If you have an upper floor, obviously because of the floating problem, you cannot remove a stair. You have to remove the floor first before you can remove the stair. I'm going to add a couple of pillars, posts, to make it look like our porch is supported. There are two ways to do this. Posts are at the bottom of stairs. Posts snap to various points. Where they don't snap is to corners, which is quite often where you want them. They snap at 25% of the way through and 50% of the way through, but not in corners. There's two ways around this if you want posts on the corners. You can trick it by using a half floor piece like this, because when we put our pillar down now, it is at 50% of the half. It's in the halfway point of the small floor piece. They don't quite line up, I don't think, on the corners. And they do seem to overhang slightly. There is another alternative, and that is, if you build a pillar, I'm going to have to take the roof off for this. just briefly. If you build a pillar, you can snap another pillar on top. And then, if you see on the bottom menu it says hold A for blueprint. If you hold A to blueprint that item, select the other pillar, you now have 2 items. You can actually create a blueprint Does anyone else hate this thing? Right. Now if we take the pillars off, I'm going to store them. If we go along to the 3rd tab, you will see there is a section for blueprints, and we have our 2 pillars. Now, pillars normally will only snap to foundations or ceiling pieces, upper floors. But if you have 2 like this, you can actually place them anywhere. And what that means is you can line them up, if you're lucky. Still trying to snap. You can line them up exactly on the corner. Then all you do is you remove the top one. And it does mean that you can turn them around so that the flat surface is facing you rather than the hollowed out concave face. I don't know if this one will go in because of the roof, so we will take the roof piece off. It will obviously go through upper floor tiles. Turn that 90 degrees. This isn't as precise because obviously it's not snapping, but it does give you more freedom to place things how you would like them. I did actually use this pillar trick to create the drain pipes on the mill house and also the beams on my medieval house, so they can be placed quite close up to structures. So here we have a 2-storey cottage. A 2-storey cottage with a covered porch. The other advantage of having your posts on the corners rather than halfway in between is if you want, you can place fences or railings. These railings, you can't find a plan for these. These railings and some of the other home defence items unlock after you first take a public workshop. I personally hate these. But I will cover the topic of railings in another video. So I think that covers the basics of this. I have a little extra to show you with something you can do with these stair frames, which I did at a public workshop because of space issues here, and I will show you that right now. I wanted to show you a couple of more advanced building tricks that you can do with staircases and upper floors, and I came down to a public workshop at Billings Homestead down in the forest. There's quite a lot of space here, and I sometimes use public workshops to experiment when I don't want to tear a camp down. If I'm debating what to build, or I just want to try out a trick that I've seen. Once you build here, once you log off, it's gone. There have been suggestions that for Fallout First members that they can keep workshops. Kinda makes sense in a way. If no one else is using your server, having to take the workshop every time is a bit of a pain. And it also would mean that we have the potential to build up permanent settlements. There is actually a huge amount of space here. So what I'm going to show you today is how to stack staircases, the metal stair frames. And, well, give you a few ideas about what you can do with them. You need to first of all put down 2 foundations and put your stair frame on. Now you can't stack another stair frame on top of this ordinarily, but if you put 2 pillars up like this and take the bottom one out, you can stack another staircase on top because it is in fact snapping to this top pillar. Now you've got to be careful when doing this that you've lined them up correctly and that your staircase makes sense, because you can in fact block off like that. If you put that up like that, you would actually block off the entrance to the top of the stairs. And that one like that, you wouldn't be able to get to the other staircase. So we're going to pick that one. It's all lined up. You can keep going. There is an upper build limit. There is a ceiling, as it were. Be careful not to fall off. You can attach walls to these. Now, if you try and take this top staircase off, it will tell you cannot remove item, part of the structure would be inaccessible. But if you take the pillar off, you should then be able to store or scrap the staircase. However, there's another neat trick that you can do with this. Oh, I forgot to take the other pillar off. The middle pillar. Okay. It's not the right way around, is it? No. These can be tricky to line up. Okay. What you can in fact do is you can take the bottom staircase off. What this means is that you can in fact build up from this staircase and have a floating camp, because you can also remove the foundations underneath. The only proviso of this is that with a stacked staircase or a floating one, once you place a piece of floor down or anything else, you will not be able to remove it. So you have to plan very carefully what you're going to do. Otherwise you pretty much have to start from scratch. But if you've seen people building spaceships and floating camps, there was a floating house with balloons I saw a picture of. It would more than likely have been done this way. The other thing I wanted to show you was, I said at the beginning of this video that you cannot place upper floors without a ladder, and that is true, but you can do a little trick, which is you can place ladders into the ground like this, and once you've done that you can actually take this foundation off and put an upper floor on. And of course, because it's in the place where the foundation was, it looks like it's clipping or attached to. That one's not straight. But the problem is you have this. Cannot remove item, part of the structure would be inaccessible. You can't take this one off either. You're kind of stuck. You can't take the ladder off. There is a way to fix this. What you need to do is trick the game into thinking that these floors are not dependent on that ladder. So, because you can attach floors to the bottom of a ladder, the game now thinks that these floors are dependent on this ladder. So, with any luck, you can take all of this off. It's all about build order and pretty much tricking the game. So there you have it. I hope that wasn't too fast for you and that you understood the explanation. Basically, upper floors have to be attached to a ladder. But you can also attach floors to the bottom of a ladder. And create all sorts of weird and wonderful Escher-like structures. So I hope that explains a bit of the detail of how it works. So someone asked if they could see inside my tiny house. It hasn't changed since my tiny house tour. I actually blueprinted this house, so I have changed the wallpaper. But pretty much everything else is the same. It has a cooker, seating, somewhere to eat, and there is a sleeping loft up here. I changed the bed. So it has everything you need. If you want me to do a tutorial on how to build this house, let me know. All of the workbenches are outside here, and crops, so that I can feed myself. So I hope you like how the cabin is coming on. Next week I think I'm going to cover walls, how to do different tricks with walls and how to change this up and make it look different if you want to. So that's all from me today. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching.